Hi, I'm Cam Kelly. I'm the construction assistant here with Habitat for Humanity, and I'm on site at the Women's Build 2K16 to show you how to set floor joists, band board, and the subfloor itself. For these particular floor joists on this house, we have one joist that runs from one end of the house just past the middle beam, and from the other side of the house just past the middle beam, so that they overlap in the middle. When laying out the floor joists, you will start on the long side of the house and hook your tape onto the end of the house, measuring out 15¼ inches. You will then drive a nail at that mark to hook your tape onto, and run your tape along the whole rest of the side of the house, and making each subsequent mark every 16 inches. You will then mark an X on whichever side of your line you're going to set your floor joists. Or you can measure 1.5 inches with your speed square and make another mark, 1.5 inches being the width of the floor joist itself. Once you have laid out one side of the house, you will switch to the other side. This time, when you hook your tape onto the end of the house, you will only measure out 13¾ inches instead of 15¼ inches. That way you leave 1.5 inches for the boards to overlap in the middle on your center beam. Just as we did on the other side of the house, you will hammer a nail down at that 13¾ and measure with your tape. Every 16 inches you will make a mark down that side of the house. The center beam will only have one common line for both joists to line up to. On either side of the center beam, mark an X to which side of the common line the joist should sit on. Once the joist layout is complete, you want to mark 1.5 inches in from the outside of the house on the sill plate and chalk a line all the way around the outside of the house for the band board or rim joist. The floor joist will be secured to the sill plate with 16-penny galvanized nails, which will not be corroded by the treated lumber which we used for the sill plate itself. The bulk of the house will require full-length floor joists, but at the front of the house where the porch is and the back of the house where the shed is, boards will have to be cut to length. Thus, the floor joists will be secured in 4 different spots: on the exterior of the house through both sill plates, in the center to each other, and to the center beam. The band board, like the floor joist, is 2x10 construction lumber. The band board will be secured with 16-penny nails, 3 of them through each floor joist, and 1 16-penny galvanized nail through the bottom of the band board and into the sill plate. It's very important when running the rim joist that the board falls halfway between one of the floor joists extending out onto the sill plate. That way, the end of that band board and the start of the next band board have something to nail to. Before the subfloor can go on, we will also put cross bracing on either side of the center beam in order to secure the joists together. Before running the cross bracing, you must measure halfway between the center beam and either side of the house and chalk a line all the way down the length of the house so that the cross bracing falls in the same spot all the way down the house. The cross bracing will run over each joist and will be secured with 1.25 inch roofing nail. We will do this on both sides of the center beam so that the joists are secure before we lay the subfloor. Once all of the band board is set, we can further insulate the crawl space by adding 2-inch styrofoam cut to length and height in between every joist and at the ends of the house. This 2-inch blue board will sit on top of the sill plate and in between the joists. Before you begin decking on the house, you must first chalk a line 47¾ inches in from the outside band board on the long side of the house. This chalk line will be used to line the decking up with so that the first row is straight the entire length of the house. We will begin laying decking from the same floor of the house as the floor joist layout started, and they will run perpendicular to the floor joist. Before we can lay any of the decking, we must run a 3/8 speed of subfloor adhesive along the top of the floor joist and on top of the rim and band board, only where the sheet of OSB will be laid. If time allows before decking, it is helpful to chalk a line every 16 inches on the sheet of OSB before it is laid. This will show those who are nailing the sheet of OSB down where the joist is that they are trying to nail into. We are using what is called tongue and groove OSB, meaning that one long side of the OSB has a tongue on it and the other side has a groove, so that when you fit two pieces of OSB together, they will slide together nicely and there will be no gap in the OSB. The first row of decking will start with a full sheet of OSB. However, the second row will start with only a half sheet. Therefore, the seams of the OSB are staggered and all the weight does not fall in one spot on the house. Floor joists are laid out so that they fall 16 inches apart from one another. However, due to bow in the board, among other factors, sometimes they need to be shifted one way or the other. Thus, before the decking is attached to the floor joist, we will shift them so that they fall 16 on center. The OSB will be nailed with 8 penny nails, 5 per every joist in the field and 7 per every joist along the edges of the OSB. In the second and all remaining rows of the house, the tongue and grooves of the OSB sheets will connect. Using a scrap piece of 2x4 and a sledgehammer, drive the tongue of the sheet that you are laying into the groove of the previous sheet of OSB. If you remember during joist layout, the long side of the house began on a mark at 15¼ inches, and the shorter side of the house began at 13¾ so that the joist could overlap in the middle. So when you cross the center beam with the OSB, you're going to have to cut off 1.5 inches so that the OSB running on the short side of the house still falls on a joist. The last row of decking on the house will have to be cut to height so that it fits along the rim joist or band board on the outside of the house. The final step in the floor system is to chalk lines all the way around the house to cut off any excess OSB hanging over the sill plate. Guys, I appreciate you watching this video on floor joist, band board, and the subfloor, and I will see you next time.